Welcome to Fixation Rotation Podcast. My name's Sarah.
And my name's Jessica.
And if you want to find us on social media, you can find us at Fixation Rotation Pod on Instagram, or you can email us at fixationrotationpod@gmail.com. So this week has been a doozy for Jessica and I both, and we are so ready to escape into whatever topic Jessica has been researching. So Jess, what have you been fixating on this week?
What do you know about the Roswell Incident?
Well, I started reading books on it in 1999. But it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
I was going to say, do you know everything about this?
No, but I might have had a slight hyper fixation on it as a young child.
This and dolphins. Oh my God, Sarah.
This and so many other things.
I'm learning so much about you.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna go into some like mystical, like alien conspiracy theory territory, but like fun conspiracy theories. So stick around. It's I don't even know where to start. Basically, the Roswell Incident. It is probably the most famous UFO crash story, I would say, ever. What do you think, Sarah?
I'd say between that and Jesus, probably Jesus is slightly more.
In terms of aliens flying to Earth?
Well, I'd say he's probably the most famous alien. Like, he went up into the clouds.
Yeah.
But other than Jesus, I would say...
You know what? If you looked at our back catalog, if that's still available, we have an episode called Is Jesus an Alien? And you can hear us talk about that after this. Actually, that would be a really good sister episode to this.
It would. Maybe that can make an appearance on this podcast at some point.
Oh, God. We'll just do it over again. Yeah. We'll do a re-release. Okay. The Roswell Incident. Tell me what comes to mind when I say that.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
1949.
Oh, that was really close.
8?
Oh,
Seven.
Seven.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Late 1940s, New Mexico. Crash, Men in Black, bodies, alien technology, Area 51, reverse engineering.
Oh, okay. Then you probably are going deeper than what I did, because Area 51, that's a separate episode that I'm sure we will do someday. Cool. So we're just going to be talking about the Roswell Incident itself. So let's just go for it. I'm just going to go for it. I have a million notes. Are you ready?
I'm so ready for this.
Okay. You said, like we just said, it was in 1947. So some background on what was going on at the time. So I'm going to bring us to 1947. The Cold War was happening, and World War II was only like a few years ago. So that would have been a crazy time.
But they're having a lot of babies. It's the beginning of the baby boom.
Yes, and we love the baby boomers. Yes, so
just love them.
Love them. Okay, so in the summer of 1947, there was some recent previous reports of mysterious things in the sky. About 2 weeks before the Roswell Incident, on June 24th, 1947, a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold, he reported seeing objects in the sky over Mount Rainier in Washington. Okay. So not that close to New Mexico. I mentioned that he's a private pilot, but also wanted to mention that like all the people in his life and his reputation, he is not off his rocker in any way. Like apparently this guy was a reputable guy. And so he saw things that were traveling faster than anything he had ever seen before. And he thought that maybe they were going 1,700 miles per hour. That was his estimation.
Okay.
This is his quote. He compared it to his comparison to the motion that they were making was as if it was a saucer skipping across water. So that seems like a really interesting motion, maybe like a skipping, like going really fast.
Like skipping a rock?
Like da-da-da-da-da. That's what I assumed. I mean, that's a visual, so the people on YouTube will have seen that. But so like a rock across water. That's what he's saying. But people heard him say saucer, and they thought he said flying saucer, that it was saucer shaped. And that's where the term flying saucer comes from.
So all the lore goes back to a misunderstanding about Arnold's description.
Yes. Okay.
That is wild.
Isn't that just, first of all, mind-blowing? I think that might be the most mind-blowing part of the episode. I think when I read that, and I checked quite a few different places because I was like, there's no way. But there is yes way. And that's exactly why we call them flying saucers. So he said he saw 9 glowing objects. He thought maybe it was like military craft, but then the military came out and said that it had not been conducting any tests at that time at that location. I mean, why would the military lie? So after his sighting, there were more sightings over the next few weeks, just like little things here and there, until July 1947. There was a crash near Roswell, New Mexico. So how it came to be was there was a bunch of debris that was on this guy's ranch. His name was Mac Brazel, and he was a local rancher. He was living on this ranch outside of Roswell that it was the 40s. He had no telephone. He had like very little things there. It was just like a very basic house. So he found this debris in his field, and what he found was what looked like tinfoil, rubber strips, and sticks. So that doesn't sound very sus to me. And apparently it went on for like quite a few yards. And so he just kind of left it for a few days and then went about his business. And then he was talking to a neighbor, and the neighbor apparently told him that there had been flying saucer reports of flying saucers and things in the sky. So he's like, that's weird. I have this weird thing on my ranch. So then he picks up the stuff, brings it to Roswell, to the sheriff in Roswell. The sheriff in Roswell then brings it to, there's an Army Air Base there. It was called the RAAF, so Roswell Army Airfield. Then the Army picks it up, and the next day, the PR guy, the public information officer, his name was Walter Hott. He issues a voluntary press release saying that a flying disc had crashed and been recovered near Roswell. So the Army was like, there was a flying saucer crash, and people, it went like crazy.
Like 1947 version of viral.
Yes, exactly. It was picked up by the Associated Press and the New York Times. So I'd say that's the 40s version of viral. And he got pretty reprimanded for doing this. The next day, the military announced that it was actually a weather balloon carrying a radar target and nothing to see here, folks. So they did that, and people were like, okay. And then it didn't get talked about for like 30 more years. Isn't that wild? It's just because you think about like the 40s, and I thought that was really crazy, but realized that people trusted the government back then. For the most part, like if the government said something in 1947 or the Army, you were like, they didn't really have a reason to hide anything. And, you know, they had just won the war. So everyone's like on a high.
Yeah. They're popping out babies.
So
the men are in the workforce.
And I think just without the internet to keep things alive, it just faded from public interest.
Well, I think humans we are very like squirrely, because there's a lot of things that fade from public interest too. Like think about any sort of major scandal. Like it's big and then it's gone, and you don't think about it.
The fact that you can't even think of one is a good example.
I know. Like, well, I can think of some that are current, but I don't want to talk about them.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to kind of put into context like at the time, because there was still a lot of trust in government, distrust in the government. It kind of ramped up, I guess, around the Vietnam War time and all of that. Like before that, you didn't really question very much that they said. I don't think anyone had a reason to believe that they would hide a alien craft. That's the background. That's what happened at the time. The Roswell incident was essentially a non-story for 30 years. Okay, this is the second thing that's going to blow your mind, Sarah. Okay. I already blew your mind. I'm going to blow your mind again. I forgot about this one.
I'm here for it.
In my research, I came across a man called Stanton Friedman. Do you know who that is?
I love Stanton Friedman.
Damn it!
There is a current exhibit at the Fredericton Museum.
Yes.
About Stanton Friedman.
Damn it.
And also I knew someone that had helped with like the archives of the things from his house after he passed.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
People would send in like dog hair and be like, I think my dog saw aliens. Can you test this dog hair? Like this guy had so much stuff.
Okay, so this guy is a ufologist.
But he's legit.
Just for our listeners, because we just kind of freaked out. Stanton Friedman is a ufologist. And he lived on the east coast of Canada, and we are from the east coast of Canada.
Have I heard of Stanton Friedman? You're crazy. Who hasn't?
I hadn't. I didn't know who he was.
He's in so many documentaries too about aliens.
He is. I know. I've watched quite a few now.
He's one of the main ones, and he has like a PhD in like physics.
I'll give the information in like a less deranged form because we're both just not.
Well, okay. One side note: during when you were first starting to present the episode, I was like, it'd be cool to add Stanton Friedman to the episode list. Like I literally thought of him already.
Okay, I will say though, we should add him to the episode list because I am going to talk about him, but only in this context about Roswell because he did so much other stuff. But he was a nuclear physicist turned ufologist and actually is decently well respected, which is interesting for a ufologist.
He's definitely not cuckoo bananas, I would say.
His eyebrows have like points, but other than that, he's the way I came across him was I was watching a documentary about Roswell, of course, as one does. And I was like, okay, his name kept coming up. I was writing down the names of the people. I Google him and it said he's a Canadian American physicist. And I was like, amazing. And then it goes, who lived in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And I was like, what? My mind just exploded because I was like, how have I never heard of this person?
No, there's like a whole exhibit in the local museum for him. Like he's a big deal.
I will say my mind was blown. And Stanton, he is the reason why there's anyone even knows about Roswell. He's the reason.
He popularized the lore and the story around it.
He did. He went to Roswell and started to interview people in the 70s. And he was the first civilian to investigate it. Okay, so wow. I didn't blow Sarah's mind, but it kind of blew my mind that you knew so much about Stanton Friedman. He was the first civilian to investigate it. He interviewed a man named Jesse Marcel in 1978. So Jesse Marcel was in the Army at the Roswell base at that time, and he accompanied the Roswell debris from the ranch to the Army base. He also, like, if you were to Google, and I'll probably try to put a picture in the show notes or a link, but if you Google Roswell debris, I think that a picture of him comes up holding what looks like tinfoil.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that in a sec. But based on the interview with Stanton Friedman, who we love, we learned that he also brought some of the material home to show his son, Jesse Jr., who has also discussed the materials. And they both talk about the type of metal and foil that was retrieved as something that felt otherworldly. That's what they kept saying.
Imagine it's just actual aluminum foil and they're like it's so otherworldly. The power of suggestion.
Friedman describes it as memory metal that you can so this is what he calls it. Okay. And you can ball it up and then it springs back to its original form. With no folds.
And it's thin, but you can't rip it.
Yeah. And it's super strong or
it's
something.
All coming back to me.
Yeah. His son also says there was a wood-like material that was harder than balsa wood, which apparently is a very hard wood that I learned. But it's a soft hardwood. So, I don't know.
Maybe hardwoods could be an episode.
Just the different types of hardwoods.
Yeah.
Let us know if you're interested. I think we would lose every listener that we've ever had. So balsa wood, there was all this material, and he says what looks like hieroglyphs were written all over them. Something that he couldn't decipher. So this was, Jesse Marcel said this to Stanton Friedman, and then Jesse Jr. still says it. He's, as far as I remember, still alive. But he's been on documentaries, and he's said the same thing. Stanton Friedman at the time also, he interviewed over 100 people.
Wow.
And then he collaborated with two men, Charles Berlitz and William Moore, and they wrote a book called The Roswell Incident. When I read that, when I was doing my research, I was like, Charles Berlitz, that sounds familiar. And then I Googled him and I realized that he had written this book about the Bermuda Triangle that I started reading when I was like, maybe I'll do an episode on the Bermuda Triangle. And then it was so batshit crazy that I was like, this guy's not a serious person. Anyway, he wrote the Roswell incident, but maybe he is a serious person. I don't know. So, of course, I read this book.
As one does.
As one does. It's a collection of interviews and narrations surrounding the events of Roswell. It's based on all the interviews that Stanton did, but he doesn't get a writing credit. So I'm not really sure why, but he is apparently like credited as the investigator. So hopefully
he gets an honorable mention.
Yeah, I guess. But I think he did all the work. So let's chat about the book.
Yeah.
It starts with a woman named Lydia Sleppy. She worked at a radio station in Albuquerque in July 1947. She receives a call from a reporter that a flying saucer has crashed. And then she starts to type it into this like machine that they had called a teletype. And I think those are still around, the TTY.
Okay.
Basically what it does is that like it used wires to send text-based messages. So it's like texting of the 40s. And she starts to write it, and then the teletype stops working, which apparently happened all the time, so she didn't think anything of it. And then it turns back on its own, and it starts typing on its own. Attention, Albuquerque, do not transmit. Repeat, do not transmit this message. Stop communicating immediately. So that's weird. And then apparently in her story, she says the reporter calls her back and tells her to just forget what she heard and to forget everything. So that's like weird.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's how the book starts. So that's the hook. That's the hook. They got me in. Then it starts talking about Jesse Marcel. We just talked about him. He was working at the Army base, and he was one of the first to see the debris. And in the book, he then says that the material was definitely not a weather balloon. This is his quote. This is a quote from the book, and I just wanted to read it because it kind of, this is just going to sum up everything that he saw. There was all kinds of stuff, small beams about 3/8 or half an inch square with some sort of hieroglyphs on them that no one could decipher. These looked something like balsa wood, and they were of the same weight, except they were not wood at all. They were very hard, although flexible, and would not burn. There was a great deal of unusual parchment-like substance, which was brown in color and extremely strong, and a great number of small pieces of metal like tinfoil, except that it wasn't tinfoil. Okay. So that's the material. And like I said, he was photographed holding the material by the press, and he said that that was actually only a very, very small amount of what they had found, and it the least interesting part, because honestly, if you see the picture, it looks like he's holding up a sheet of tinfoil. So I'm like, okay.
Frig, I want to know the hieroglyphs. I want to know more about that.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
We'll talk about the hieroglyphs again. At this point in the book, Jesse is like, the weather balloon story is a cover-up. Like, he just straight up says it. So they then interview a bunch of Mac Brazel's friend. So if you remember, he was the guy that owned the ranch that the debris was on. And all the family members basically corroborated his story. He had already passed away. And he apparently was really tight-lipped about the whole thing. His son and his friends say that the military held him for several days after he discovered it.
Oh.
And then he like wouldn't speak about it after. That's interesting. But at the same time, a lot of his family, including his son, who was interviewed, saw the wreckage and described it the same way because they all saw it before he brought it in. His son had actually saved some of the debris and put it away, but then years later, some military officer came to his door and demanded that he return it, which he did.
Shit.
So that's really interesting too.
That is interesting.
This is also the first time that anyone starts talking about retrieving alien bodies. So we haven't even talked about alien bodies yet. We were only talking about debris. There's been no talk of bodies in the conspiracies up to now. The next story, a man named Barney Barnett, he's interviewed next.
Who would name their child Barney Barnett?
These poor bastards. He worked as an engineer in the area for the U.S. Soil Conservation Service for 20 years until his retirement, until 1957. He had died before Stanton Friedman interviewed the people at Roswell. However, Stanton talked to a bunch of people that knew him. And the people who told the story, it corroborated and said that he was a pretty conservative guy who didn't tend to make things up. His story goes that sometime in the morning of July 3rd, 1947, so this would have been a few days before Mac Brazel would have brought the debris to the sheriff. He was outside of Socorro, New Mexico, which is about 250 kilometers from Roswell, or 160 miles for our American listeners. So it's pretty far. But he said that he discovered a crashed flying saucer with multiple dead bodies, but not human bodies. So he described the bodies as human-like, but their heads were really big and their bodies were smaller than humans. They didn't have any hair. While he was looking at them, apparently a military vehicle then pulled up and told him to never speak about what he saw. And that apparently, and multiple people said this, that if he told anyone, it would be unpatriotic. There are other interviews within the book that talk about alien bodies too, but not much different than this story. But what's interesting about this story is that the authors then propose that this is actually the same crash, but that this was like the main crash, and then the debris ended up like 100 kilometers away on the ranch. So like, look, I'm no physicist. I'll leave that to Stanton Friedman, but maybe that happens. So that was what they said. The book has a bit more in it, but that's kind of all I'll talk about for our purposes today.
Okay.
But I wanted to say that there was a quote that struck me because it's interesting. So I'm going to just read the whole quote. It says, Manhattan Project, other military and scientific Cold War projects happening in the area at the time, all of which makes it somewhat easier to understand why, in those summer months of 1947, New Mexico experienced more UFO sightings both per capita and per square mile than any other state of the Union. There is no reference here, so I'm not sure if this is true. Certainly, alien intelligences systematically engaged in the observation of this planet and its civilizations could be expected to concentrate their efforts on monitoring those areas exhibiting the highest levels of scientific and technological activity. So what they're saying is that the aliens are always watching us, and they decided because they were doing all these atomic tests that the aliens are investigating.
Time to intervene to avoid nuclear war.
And what's funny is that me and you watched a documentary when you visited me called The Age of Disclosure. And it talked about that, how they can turn on and off nuclear weapons.
I do like the Planet Zoo theory that there's just like a bunch of aliens like coming as tourists to like see us on Earth.
And to various like degrees of blending in.
Yeah.
The best conspiracy theory started because a tourist alien got too drunk and started fucking about, and then we saw them. You know what I mean?
Then there were human alien hybrids, and then the lizard people took over Hollywood.
Well, yeah, you're right. All right.
That's a whole other episode though, folks.
I'm too shocked to say. Stay tuned for our next episode.
I bet you can tell what my algorithm's like.
I don't need to know anything else that's going on in the world. Just that there's lizard people in Hollywood and they're taking over the world. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. So let's expand on alien bodies. Let's talk more about alien bodies.
Did they have belly buttons?
That was not a part of my research, Sarah. What do you think about the alien bodies? Did they have belly buttons? Was there a debate?
I was actually thinking deeply about this like a couple of minutes ago, and I was like, well, if they came from eggs, like I don't think chickens have belly buttons. Do chickens have belly buttons?
Do cats have belly buttons?
Okay, well, I have to look that up. I don't care. Well, I'm going to look up just do cats and chickens have belly buttons, and then we will recenter on this podcast. Both cats and chickens have belly buttons, so they look different from human navels. Cats, as placental mammals, have small, flat, often fur-covered scars from the umbilical cord, typically found on their abdomen just below the ribcage. Chickens have navel or nubbin on their on their abdomen, which is a small, sealed, dry spot from hatching.
Should we do an entire episode on belly buttons?
Maybe that's my next topic.
So let's talk about alien bodies, but not belly buttons.
Okay.
The initial reports from Roswell from the RAAF and the first witnesses never mentioned anything about alien bodies. So that's why this is interesting, because all this information came out later, starting with Barney Barnett's story in the Roswell Incident book. And then it expanded from there. That's where it all started. So in 1989, the show Unsolved Mysteries Season 2 aired. The Roswell Incident book came out in 1980. Stanton Friedman did all his interviews in the late 70s. And then after the book comes out 9 years later, Unsolved Mysteries Roswell episode. Before this aired, the Roswell theories were still a bit obscure and hadn't really penetrated any sort of mainstream media. But in 1989, season 2 aired, and its first episode was about the Roswell incident.
Okay.
And it interviewed a friend of Barney Barnett, who reiterated Barney's story about the alien bodies. It also interviewed a widow of a pilot who allegedly flew the debris and bodies from the army base to another army base.
Was it like a deathbed confession?
She said he kept it a secret for 34 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, probably. Apparently, this episode of Unsolved Mysteries had 28 million viewers, and it actually increased the popularity of the entire show quite a bit. It could have also just been because it's season 2, episode 1. Maybe people are starting to discover it anyway. But the rumor about alien bodies started to really take off at this point. Also in 1989, interestingly enough, Stanton Friedman is back.
He's back.
He interviewed a man named Glenn Dennis, who had watched the episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and then he came forward with his own story, his own information, I should say. He was working as a mortician in Roswell at the time of the crash. So in 1947, he was a mortician. And he apparently received inquiries from the airbase that they were looking for child-sized coffins, and then asking about...
I've heard about this.
Yes, okay, yeah. And then asked about how to embalm bodies that had been exposed to weather for days. Like, advice, I guess. So then his story kind of goes on that he had also seen some strange things at the hospital, at the base hospital in July. He ran into this nurse that was hysterically crying, and she was crying because she had helped doctors perform autopsies on strange looking small bodies. That's what she says. And she freaked out, and she swore him to secrecy. Obviously he did not keep that secret. And then she was transferred to England right after they spoke. And then he later heard that she died in a plane crash.
Sus.
Yeah, and also sus, I will say it is sus because it ends up coming out later that he gave a fake name of the nurse. But then he gave another name, and that one was fake too. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to protect her identity." So
I'm calling bullshit.
That one sounds a little iffy. But on almost all of the accounts on alien bodies, they were described almost the same way across the board. This is their characteristics, and this will sound familiar to anyone who has ever lived on planet Earth. They are small in stature, about 4 to 5 feet tall. They have larger heads than us. They have smaller bodies than us. They have slanted and slightly sunken eyes. And then some people sometimes would mention that they have like 4 fingers, but that was like, they're like, they might be mistaken.
Like, what kind of digits did they have? Opposable
Long,
thumbs? I think they have opposable thumbs.
Some
like
of them are saying that they didn't have opposable thumbs. And then another person was like, oh, they were mistaken because the thumb was just tucked under the hand. Like that, I don't know. And they have gray skin, no hair. Often people would say they were like wearing jumpsuits with no visible zipper, snaps, or pockets. So like different like material that we didn't recognize.
Such as tinfoil.
Such as tinfoil. As a side note about aliens, in 1977, there was a movie. Steven Spielberg put out a movie. I think it was one of his first. It was called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Have you heard of this? Yeah. I've never seen it, but it was released and it was like a huge success. Have you ever actually seen it?
Yes, it's very creepy.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe we should watch it together sometime. It's a movie about aliens, and the aliens in the movie basically fit that description that I just gave you. And so that came out in 77, and then the Roswell Incident comes out in 1980, and Stanton Friedman is interviewing people at this time. So like, I think a lot of this can be boiled down to people just seeing the movie, and then I don't know. In 1995, so then we're 15 years after 1980. Okay, I know math, and I'm really good at it. A British film producer named Ray Santilli released 17 minutes of this grainy footage, black and white footage. It was 3 government workers, like government autopsy people in full hazmat suits, and they were doing an autopsy on an alien. The alien really other than the head, looks exactly like a human. In my opinion, I was actually at a coffee shop trying to watch it, and it's actually quite graphic. They're doing an autopsy on this alien on a table, laying on a table, and it's like this alien-looking creature, I guess. And it was aired on the Fox network a few times, each time having more and more viewers. And then it was released on VHS, and then I think on Channel 4 in the UK, whatever.
On someone bought a videotape just of that.
I think so. In the film, they're just like in a room, and there's an alien body on a table, and the doctors are cutting into it and taking things out, and there's somebody filming it. And the filmmakers alleged, like, so they're like, this alien was recovered from the Roswell crash. And he says he received the reels from a retired military cameraman who had been assigned to record the autopsy and then secretly kept a copy. And that the filmmaker was like, I paid $100,000 for it. But also, like, if you watch it, you're like, there's no way cameras were that good in 1947. So anyway, it's definitely fake. So the film was super popular, but even like experts were like, this is not real because they're not holding their instruments right. These aren't real doctors. They're not. It's really good special effects. But autopsy experts are like, this is the quickest autopsy in the world. Like, it would never be like this. It wasn't until 2006 that Ray Santilli admitted that the film was fake and that it was actually just filmed in someone's living room in London.
Oh my God, Ray.
But however, he doubled down and said it wasn't actually a hoax, but that it's a reenactment of actual footage that's too deteriorated to use.
Oh, yes. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, but now that's been added to the zeitgeist.
It's like you explain away just more and more and more, and the lore develops around it.
That's exactly it. You're like, why won't this story die? But it can't die because
we want to believe.
We want to believe. We do.
And I mean, this is the era of like X-Files and like all like people are really getting into aliens, right?
Yep. And apparently X-Files, like there's like a kind of an offhanded comment about the footage being a hoax or something like in the X-Files. So like this is something that did permeate the culture. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are into the section where we're going to talk about the aftermath of all these conspiracies and what actually happened here. What actually happened in July 1947. So,
folks, she has solved the unsolved mystery, season 2, episode 1.
I actually solved it. In July 1994, the Office of the Secretary of the Air Force conducted an investigation into Roswell. It went through all the archives and tried to figure out exactly what happened. And they ended up releasing like this almost 1,000-page report called The Roswell Report, Fact versus Fiction in the New Mexican Desert. It said, the reason that this report actually happened was because a member of Congress, Stephen Schiff, he was a Republican, started poking around and demanding answers. And good for him. He wanted to know what was up.
Just a good old boy poking around.
So this is what it concluded. In the 1,000-page report, the debris found in July was remnants of craft used for a top secret military project called Project Mogul, which was during the Cold War. It was a top secret project during the Cold War. The Project Mogul craft, it was designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests like in the upper atmosphere. So it would use low frequency sound waves. So if you put this thing way up in the air and you could detect the sound waves of the Soviets setting off a possible nuclear weapon test, it would send like a train of 28 balloons into the atmosphere that I will admit do look really weird. So if you Google Project Mogul, it does look weird. The strings, like the actual thing itself, can be over 600 feet long. To track the balloons, the Army used radar targets, which were like diamond in shape, and they were made in frames made of balsa wood and covered in black foil back paper. Okay. I know. So this is their explanation for the hieroglyphs. It is exquisite. So the hieroglyphs, there was like an adhesive tape shortage, I guess, at the time. And so the Army used this like floral decorative tape on the balsa wood. And then after it crashed and deteriorated, it left marks or like impressions on the balsa wood.
Can you imagine the top secret military equipment and you're like, I guess we can't run to the store and get tape. Well, why do you have floral tape? Like,
But
what?
apparently that's all that was available in, like, it was just after the war. Like, they didn't have things
Silly
back
me.
then.
They didn't have Amazon Prime.
No, yeah, Amazon.
Touché.
It came a couple years later. That's what made me laugh, because I was watching a documentary and they showed like the possible floral tape, and it was like this like Christmas tape with like holly.
The real question here is, would you use that to wrap?
I've never thought about using special tape for wrapping. What about you? No. I'm good with good old Scotch tape. So that is really all the report said. It would seem to raise way more questions than answers. Plus, like, there was so much pressure to answer about the alien bodies. So then in 1997, another report was created they called it the Roswell Report, case closed. So it was released by the Air Force. And you can read this report, but I'll give you a breakdown of the key elements because it's like 300 pages. No one has time for that. They reiterated that this is from Project Mogul. The alien bodies. So their explanation is that the witnesses actually just have their timelines wrong. And the bodies are actually attributed to two events. So the first event is called Project High Dive. It was a high altitude balloon test in the 1950s. I just want to also say 50s, that used anthropomorphic dummies to test parachutes. And so 1950s, crash test dummies were invented in the 50s. Yet Roswell happened in 1947. So the Air Force just like doubles down and they're just like, everyone's misremembering.
It's the Mandela effect.
So then the next explanation, as I said, there was two. There was actually, it's just like aircraft accidents. They're just like a bunch of actual military tragedies in the area happened. And the Air Force is like, that's what people are attributing to the Roswell crash, is that they once saw a body and then they...
What a like silly report to be like, we need a round 2 unanswered questions. These are the answers. They do not make sense and they contradict each other.
Also, round 2, we're just going to gaslight you. Say, that's not what you saw. So another thing is that the U.S. General Accounting Office also sent a report to this congressman, Stephen Schiff, because he was regarding a search for records concerning Roswell, and they couldn't really find a lot. That was one thing, is that there weren't a ton of records about this. Could have been maybe they just weren't keeping really good records. Like, I don't know. And this is what the report that he received said. It said, in our search for records concerning the Roswell crash, we learned that some government records covering Roswell Army Airfield activities had been destroyed and others had not. So it says, for example, our AAF administrative records from March 1945 to December 1949 and their outgoing messages from October 46 to December 49 were destroyed. And it does not indicate what organization or person destroyed the records or when or under what authority the records were destroyed. So essentially that long quote, the records were destroyed.
Okay, this is like some good info.
So they don't know why. But then that's it. Like, okay, they just don't know. Okay, so then my last section, Sarah. Let's fast forward 80 years because that's what I want to do right now.
At first I was like, we're in the 90s.
No, sorry.
I can't go to the future.
Let's just do it. I'm sick of this timeline. So, sorry, 80 years since the crash. I should have specified that. In July 2023, there was a congressional hearing called Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena.
I don't like the name change. I don't like the rebrand.
The UAP?
I want it to be a UFO.
They have to be more legit. So, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Implications on National Security, Public Safety, and Government Transparency. So, we know about this congressional hearing. We watched a documentary about it called The Age of Disclosure. And you fell asleep, but you were just resting your eyes. But I think you remember most of the documentary.
Yeah, most of it.
I was
tired.
There was 3 key witnesses. So the first guy, he was a former Air Force intelligence officer, David Grush, retired Navy commander David Fravor, and a former F-18 pilot named Ryan Graves. So, like, these are legit people. And the first guy, the Air Force intelligence officer guy, he testified that he was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, and that he believes the US government is in possession of UFOs based on his interviews with 40 witnesses over 4 years. And he claimed that the US has retrieved non-human biological matter from the pilots of crafts. So he doesn't say Roswell, but I wanted to know how Roswell might have connected to this congressional hearing. Okay. And that was like one of the things that I'm like, maybe he's not talking about Roswell in this specific instance, but he's talking about a very similar incident where there was a crash that got retrieved and there were bodies and we have it. And so wow. That's pretty crazy. So maybe not Roswell, but something else. One of the key takeaways from the hearings was that also if anyone in the military came forward with any information of anything weird, there was like a huge stigma and scrutiny. Like they knew that everybody would be like, you're crazy. So that's why so many people don't come forward. And then also these men are saying that they feared for their lives at times. And they did talk about that in that documentary. They go really deep into it. So if you haven't seen it, you should see it. But Stanton Friedman interviewed some people, but like not everyone's going to come forward.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Now that I'm done this part, this is actually the end of my notes. And I wanted to know, after all of the things that I just said, like, what do you think?
It's a tough one because, of course, there's the part of me that just loves all the lore around this. Mm-hmm. And I think there has to be something to it because I think the sheer amount of witnesses that are corroborated saying the same thing, I think human witnesses and reputable ones too, like why would these military or scientists or individuals, like why would they risk their careers? They know that they're going to be ridiculed for this. Mm-hmm. But like to them, like obviously it was important enough to share because that is so heavy. I could not imagine. Like imagine if you had that information just sitting with that. We're just going through our day to day and there's like aliens up there. Like,
I know.
And I mean, the crazier part is like the US has essentially like admitted, like, mm-hmm. I'm like, why do we not talk about this more? Like, why is this not more at the forefront? Like, I mean, it's like we've forgotten about it.
I think that people are just too tired.
Yeah.
Because like, in my opinion on the alien stuff, I'm like, that's amazing. But like, I don't know what I'm supposed to really do with that information. But what I will say is that I flip-flopped a lot when I was researching this subject. I was like, no, it's a hoax. Like, there's no way that, like, it was definitely Project Mogul. It was definitely Cold War. And then I'm like, I mean, maybe there was kind of like a cover-up, but like at this point, all the original people, all the original stuff was destroyed. So like, we're never really going to know. And it could have been aliens or something very similar happened somewhere else. And that was aliens. And we never heard a thing about it. When I watched that documentary and heard about the congressional hearings, like I believe those men 100%.
You just made me think of Stan Friedman because you're like, who has the time for that? Like it takes these really passionate people that are like we're doing a deep dive per week. Their life is a deep dive forever. Like they're not getting bored of the topic. Stan Friedman, he passed away at 84 in the Toronto airport on his way back from a lecture he was giving in Ohio. Like, he never retired. He was dedicated to the cause.
We're talking about him. We think he's cool. But, like, if I tell someone about a ufologist, the immediate reaction is going to be, oh, well, that person's nuts. There's probably so many people that are never going to come out. And there's so much information about Roswell that never came out and will never come out.
Do you think there's a change though in like public perception? Like, do you think that people are more open to the idea of it?
I think so because, well, I think it's just with everything like that the world has turned into and turning into. I think people are also just, they see it as like almost a joke of like, take us, you know? But yeah, I think that also helps people warm up to the fact that like it could be real. It's funny because I was always like, oh, I don't know, like the Fermi paradox, who actually knows? But I 100% beyond a doubt believe that aliens are real and have been here. I just don't know about specifically Roswell because I don't know.
Or specifically reptilians.
Or specifically reptilians. I mean, I still need more evidence other than you just telling me that there's reptiles in Hollywood. I don't know anything about this.
The problem about doing an episode on aliens right now is that I'm like, I want to just do like 10 more episodes. Like I want a whole one on the Nordic aliens and the reptilians but we can't do them all. We cannot turn into that.
Our list is full of a lot of alien stuff. So if you're interested in that subject matter, we will have more. But I want to know if there's anyone listening who knows? I don't know if people are going to listen. This is our 3rd episode. Let us know what you think about the Roswell incident. We'll probably put a poll on Instagram. I'm curious to see what people think after hearing this. So, what'd you think? Was that fun? Did you have fun?
Yeah, I thought that was super fun. I had a lot of fun.
How's your mood? We had both had a doozy of a day.
Yeah, I'd say my mood is like good.
It's good.
Better. I'm not like spiraling, so that's good.
I love that for us. And I hope that if you were spiraling while you started this episode, that you are now kind of grounded in our weirdness about Roswell, and that we could get your mind off of whatever.
I thought that it was super interesting. It kind of like reignited several other deep dives that I want to take.
Good.
Maybe even not super profound dives, just like what do you call it? Like a
shallow dive?
A shallow dive, yeah.
I don't know.
Don't do that in real life.
Dip your toes in?
I want to metaphorically dip my toes into different strands of this episode. So thank you for reacquainting me with Roswell and Stan Friedman.
You're welcome. Well, that's it then.
We pulled it off.
We did. I'm proud of us.
Thank you for tuning in. We're done.
It was very organic and normal.
Yeah.
Good night. Good night.
Farewell, I'm just saying.